Hi there. Good evening to a code and chat, an OctoPrint code and chat live stream that was well long overdue. The last one that we had was about 4 months ago, and I had promised to do them more frequently, but then life happened again and everything was weird and all that. But for some reason I'm still hearing the loop from the start here. I hope you do not hear it anymore. Oh no, I'm hearing that is the reason. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm testing a new setup here today for the very first time, which is why I'm still a bit unsure here and there. What you're seeing behind me is, or rather what you're not seeing behind me is a green screen. And also I've ported everything that I usually do with my live streaming setup from XSplit, with what I had been using for years now, for 5 years or so, over to OBS. So this is the very first time that I'm streaming in OBS, and I sincerely hope it will work out and no weird stuff will happen. But I have to test it somehow, right? So here we go. And now I'm not anymore hearing myself. That's good. That's good. Yeah, because I forgot to mute the preview. Anyhow, so what we will do today is that was something that was requested a couple of times already. So due to popular demand, I'm going to show you all how to set up an OctoPrint development environment under Windows. The original plan was also to show you how to do the same under Linux, at least as long as time permitted, but we will probably have to do this another time because I have a NUC that I have prepared a bunch of virtual machines on to showcase this, and while I was trying to prepare a fresh version of Ubuntu, the NUC started to throw errors at me, weird things while trying to set up the VM. It might just have some problems with disk space, or it might be a DSSD that all the images are stored on is dying. So let's cross our all collective fingers here that we can actually get the Windows 10 demonstration through without any hiccups. And without further ado, so I'm just going to switch us over to the shared screen setup here. And yes, a green background on green screen. Isn't this awesome? At least the live chat is apparently working, so that is nice. Speaking about virtual machines, I'm just going to quickly remote into the Windows 10 machine that I set up, apparently not activated as you can see, but I'm going to nuke this anyhow after I have shown you this. So if you want to set up an OctoPrint development environment under Windows 10, your first stop should be to, now I actually opened it twice, I already had it open, should be to go to the OctoPrint documentation. Because when you go here in the development section, you will find this nice section that is called setting up a development environment under Windows. And this is exactly what we're going to follow today. So, first of all, this assumes you'll host your OctoPrint development checkout at cdevil OctoPrint. This machine here currently doesn't have a cdevil, so first of all, we're going to create that. And that's that. I'm still hearing myself somewhere. This is very confusing. But where? There! Ha! Okay, perfect. Back to here. So we just created cdevil. And so what we next will need is, what we next will need is, we first need to get Git for Windows, we need to get Python 2.7 and 3.8. We need the Microsoft Visual C++ compiler for Python 2.7, because if we want to be able to install some packages under Python 2.7, we need to be able to build certain native parts of it, and for that we need this extension. If you do not want to also concurrently set up a Python 2 environment, which we are going to do today because OctoPrint currently still runs under both and also needs to be tested under both, then you can just skip this one. However, this one you cannot skip because this is the same thing but for Python 3. So we also need that one. And just to answer the question quickly from 321 Jor, you can probably, yeah, the general steps that are involved here are pretty much just getting Git for Windows, Git Python 2, 7, and 3, 8 installed on the machine. And this is what I'm going to walk through now, and this is the only stuff that is going to be operating system specific. I cannot tell you how to do that on a Mac because I do not own a Mac, and I also do not, and thus I also cannot virtualize it, because for that I would need a license and all that. So I do not have access to this kind of hardware, so I cannot demonstrate this. Maybe someone else who can. However, stuff like how to create a virtual environment and all that, which we will also get into, of course. All of this is pretty much platform agnostic. You just might have to adjust paths here and there. So you will probably be able to, adapt this to your needs. However, I'm sorry in advance if there are any Mac specific questions. I cannot answer them. I am an utter Mac illiterate person. I have had access to one maybe twice in my life, and that's it. Okay, so back to here. So we need to download a bunch of stuff, and helpfully enough, the download buttons are quite prominently available. And if we take a look here, it says to get the latest stable Python 2.7 and 3.8 releases. So this is what we're going to do. First of all, 3.8 is here, is from December 21st, 387. So we're going to download the installer in 64-bit. And the latest 2.7.18. And we also want to get the installer for that. Is this the right one? Yeah, this is the right one. Okay, so while this is downloading, we can also trigger the download for the C++ compiler for Python 2.7. Save that. And we can download the build tools for Visual Studio 2019. And this is also going to take a bit oh, it's actually quite fast. Oh, right. Yeah, that one will take a long time to download after, because this is one of those things that install through the network. Okay, so let's maybe start. No, we are going to start with Git. So first of all, we're going to install Git. Yes, we want to do this. And now it's going to bombard us with a ton of questions. And to answer Charlie's question, why 3.8 versus 3.9? 3.8 is the one that is more widespread currently, so this is the one that I personally prefer for testing OctoPrint against. You can, of course, also... No, actually, I think maintenance is not yet officially flagged to be compatible with 3.9. But on the Devil branch, you should also be able to use 3.9. I'm not entirely sure. And Womack Comics says, if you have a Mac OctoPrint setup question, I may be able to help. I develop plugins on my Mac. That is really good to know. That might actually happen. Okay, so we are simply going to install this in the regular default directory. Everything here is fine as it is. Yeah, we want to create a Git submenu. We want to use Vim as Git's default editor. If you have no idea how to use Vim, you might want to change that to Notepad++ or any other of these here, but I'll just leave it at default because we're going to use this primarily through an IDE or something probably later anyhow. Yeah, so adjusting the name of the initial branch in your repositories, we'll just let Git decide for now. We want to be able to use Git from the command line and also from third-party software, but just in case that your setup is a bit peculiar or something, I'm not going to suggest to check this one personally. I did this so that I can also do an ls and use all the other fancy Unix tools that I'm used to, or POSIX tools, on a regular Windows command, but you do not need this. So this here should be fine. OpenSSL library is fine. Check out Windows style, commit Unix style, line endings is also fine. We want to use min_tty. This can also be left at the default. This can be left at the default. This can be left at the default, and we'll not check that one. So pretty much all of this can just be left at the default. And now it's going to install. Okay. Then it's going to take a, yeah, we could now launch git bash on view the release notes. We don't want either, so we just finish. Okay, next one. Now we install Python 3.8.7. We want to add this to the path. And we also do not want to use the default, but we want to customize the installation to make sure everything here is checked. And also to make sure that this one is checked, install for all users. And I also like to change the path here to point to C colon backslash Python 3.8 because whenever I use this stuff from the command line, I do not want to have to start using the quotes and all that around program files. So that is just faster. So now everything is fine here. We can just say install. We once again say yes, please, and then it is going to install all this. Hopefully. And this is always taking a bit, but at some point it will hopefully be done. Also, the stats are telling me we have 38 concurrent viewers right now. Okay, cool. I did not expect this turnout. Thank you all. Yeah, this is going to take a while. So we are just going to quickly parallelize things a bit and are starting with Python 2.7, with the install of Python 2.7. Install for all users. The folder is right, and now you also know how I came up with this convention, because the old Python versions used to just suggest it from the beginning. Damn, English is tricky. Everything is as is fine, and we're just going to let it install. Is the other one done? The other one is done. Perfect. I usually also set this one the path length limit in Windows, so it just auto-configures some stuff so that things work fine. Also, I have the feeling that maybe I should move the chat a bit up because my head is in the way. Yeah, but I don't dare to do this right now, frankly, so I'm just going to... yeah, if we just had open a command shell or something like that, PowerShell or a Windows command terminal, like PowerWeasel said, whenever you add something to the path, you need to restart all that stuff. We didn't. The only thing that we had open is Firefox, so we are fine here. We close this, we finish this. Okay, so next thing. We did all these three. Now the only stuff is missing is the visual, the what now? The Visual C++ compiler for Python 2.7, and the same thing for Python 3. We are starting with that one because that will take ages to download stuff, and we also need to be a bit careful of what we select here. So we are first going to let it download whatever it is downloading there. This is only the first part. And then we will need this because it tells us what we will have to select right now. Once it finally gives us something to do here, that is. Okay, so it cannot be moved, it can be moved. Okay, so the docs tell you to install the C++ build tools. This is this checkbox here. And to ensure that the latest version of this mouthful here and Windows 10 SDK are checked under individual components. So individual components is here. And what we're looking for is the MSVC v14.2 vs219 C++ something something build tools. So this looks roughly fine, but this is still the ARM stuff. We want the x64, x86 stuff. This one is checked, so everything is fine. But is the other thing checked as well? That is down here, the SDK. That is also okay. So we're going to say, and it's going to need 6.46 gigabytes. And this is why this takes so long, because it will now download this stuff first. And for some reason, this isn't the fastest operation that I've ever seen. Even though my connection here is quite fast. And I hope it doesn't negatively affect the streaming bandwidth, but it shouldn't really. We are going to continue with the one for 2.7 while this is doing its thing. We accept the terms of the license agreement, of course, because what other choice do we have? Yeah. Copying new files. That thing is still busy. So we're just going, okay, so apparently we cannot parallelize this here. We are going to retry. Now it is happy again. Okay, maybe don't do the same thing as I just did and install this one after the other instead of trying to save some time and do it in parallel. Apparently it doesn't like that, which is a bit annoying, but hey. Yeah. Okay. I'll take the time and just take a look at if there is some kind of questions in the live chat or anything that I need to answer or some such. Power Weasel knows how to exit Vim. Yeah, colon Q exclamation mark if you do not want to save anything, and otherwise I usually just use colon WQ, but I think Z is also an option. Oh, this is going to take ages again. What we could do in the no, I don't dare to because it's still down. So once it's done downloading and verifying, what we can do is download some other stuff that is not necessarily needed, but I'm still going to download it to show you how to use it, because I will also get Visual Studio Code, and that should hopefully be done soon so that we can get on with that. Yeah, downloaded 100%. Awesome. So we can have this continue in the background, and I'm going to, oh no, wait, I think I linked this actually. Oops. Yeah, optional but recommended tools, Visual Studio Code. And we want the Windows version. Maybe it lets us install it. It downloaded fast enough. Let's try. I mean, it complained before. It will hopefully complain again if it doesn't like that. And I'm well, okay, then I'm just going to install it for my own user account, whatever. Yep. We want an open with code action in the Windows File Explorer context menu, also for directories. And it's up to you whether you want to register it as an editor for supported file types or not. Personally, for me, it's my absolutely preferred text editor, but I still don't do this, so I'm not going to do it now either. Taking bets whether this will interfere with that one. Yeah, this looks like it hangs, but it did so yesterday when I tried all of this as well, so I'm still hopeful that it will continue to do stuff again at some point. And this is Visual Studio Code, all up and running. And we are going to install the Python, I don't know, the Python plugin environment, whatever you want to call it. This is also now installed. And then we'll continue to wait for the Win10 SDK 10.0 18362 installation to finish, maybe someday in this century. I really don't know what it is doing there that is taking that long. But then again, it's probably also maybe a bit too much for this little VM that I'm running here. It only has 2 cores and 4 gigabytes of RAM or something, so yeah. Oh dear. I'm fighting a bit with my back today. Let's hope that this does not become an issue. Well, hello CPN. See, and now it jumped from 26 to 75%, and you thought OctoPrint's progress was bad, or OctoPrint's progress estimate. It's never done that. Just saying. Jim asked what bread is in the oven today. Actually none, but I need to bake one because I have some buttermilk that needs to be taken care of, and I have a really nice buttermilk bread recipe, so yeah, maybe tomorrow or something like that. We are also out of toast, so that would fit nicely. And Daniel says he has 3 manuals to install OctoPrint on Fedora because on every system he installed it there was something or rather wrong. All the same SOC and the same Fedora net install. Yeah, well, stuff like this is really weird, right? When it happens. Okay, installation succeeded. Hooray! No, we do not want to launch Visual Studio now. Okay. Oh, right. And I also added another thing that you might want to install, and I'm simply going to show this. Oh, that was, I want to open this in a new tab because, oops, because otherwise I don't know what to paste in a minute. This is the new, which one was it again? That one. This is the new Windows terminal, which is way, way nicer than the old command prompt that you might know. And I can only heartily recommend installing it. There's also a little plugin that you can use to make it, turn it into a sort of Quake-like drop-down console. And the only thing is that right now it doesn't know about Git Bash. It only knows about Windows PowerShell, but we are going to explain to it in a second how to do that. And for that we are going to open the configuration, which currently you can only configure this thing in via JSON right now, but I've heard that the next version will also have a shiny UI for this. So we're going to quickly teach it how to handle Git Bash, and I hope all of this is correct. No, here. And I'm going to just quickly throw this in here and save, because we used all the default paths, so this should usually also work, and it also refers to cdevil here, but you can also just remove the starting directory or add another one, whatever works for you. I'm just going to do this now. I saved it, and now I should be able to just click here and have a Git Bash. Ta-da! Okay, so Jim asks, is Git Bash even necessary? I don't typically use it and just activate the VM using the batch file. You do not need, so I use the Git Bash primarily because there are just some things that are way easier to do quickly on the command line with Git, not with Python, but with Git. That are just way faster to quickly throw into the command line. So for that I use Git Bash, and then it just kind of turned into my default command line anyhow, because I used to use Linux exclusively well more than a decade ago, 1.5 decades ago, and I just got so used to all these commands that whenever you do not give me a bash, then I'm a bit sad. So I'm just happy that I can have one here in form of the Git Bash. So yeah, I'm going to use that now. Okay, we want to see what to do next. So we opened the Git Bash that we just installed, and now we are going to add typos. Awesome, right? We're going to first of all install virtual env. which we just now installed globally. And then we are already at C level, so we don't need to do that. Then we're going to git clone OctoPrint. This is going to take a quick second. And Griffekiste, you're welcome. And I know that you can install bash commands on Windows, and I also ran Cygwin for ages, long before there were easier options than that to do that. But still, I mean, it's already there, so why not use it? So that's my reasoning here. You could also install Baboo or something like that if you prefer that, but I mean, it's just there. You don't have to use it, but I assume that you use it here for the sake of this explanation. Okay, so we cloned OctoPrint, so we're going to change into the OctoPrint directory. And now we need to create two virtual environments, one for Python 2.7 and one for Python 3.8. Again, if you are just going to develop plugins in this environment or something like that and are not interested in Python 2 anymore, which is totally understandable because it's end of life since January 2020 now already, this is fine. You do not have to create a second virtual environment. You can just ignore anything that is Python 2.7 related here. I'm still going to display and demonstrate how to do it because OctoPrint right now still needs to be tested under both. So I figure it's also good to show how you can create multiple virtual environments next to each other and switch between them and stuff. Okay, so virtual env. First of all, just to quickly check that, yeah, it's actually working. We are going to, first of all, create the one for Python 2.7. Damn it, I can't type today. Okay, going to call this venv2. This is going to take a bit, and for some reason it only blurbs out all the data after it's done, but well. And now we can simply quickly adjust the path here to 3.8 and this to 3. Hello, can't live long. And the same thing just happened. So now we are going to activate the first of the two, the Python 2 virtual environment by doing this. And then we are going to first of all make sure that pip is upgraded to the latest version. And if you're wondering now why I'm not doing just pip install -- upgrade pip, on the Linux you can do that, under Windows you can't, because while you are using pip you cannot upgrade pip because Windows does not allow concurrent writing to or writing to a file that is currently being executed. So this is why you do this Python-m pip install workaround here, because this is, in this case, the Python exe is the one that is being executed and not the pip exe. This is a bit weird, but it works. Yeah, so. And we get a deprecation warning because, as I said, Python 2.7 reached the end of life on January 1st, 2020, so last year already. But as I said, we're still going to do this. Now we are going to install OctoPrint and its dependencies in editable mode, so that you do not constantly have to run pip install whenever you modify a source file or something, but it will just update it automatically. And oh yeah, I should actually, that's a good point, I should actually have updated this. I'm sorry. I hope this makes this clear now. Okay, so we are going to install whatever is currently in this directory, which is OctoPrint, in editable mode, so that whatever we do will be reflected without having to constantly pip install, pip install, pip install. And we're not going to install not only the default stuff, but we also want to install all the dependencies related to developing core or developing in general, and also to plugins like this. This is what this means. And in a second, I can also show you where this is defined if you're curious about that. So it's going to download a bunch of stuff. Also, I want ice cream as well. I guess I could just go out and eat some snow, but that's probably already melted. I can't look outside. There is a green screen in the way. Okay. Also, sorry if you're hearing the church bells again. You know the drill. They still haven't stopped doing that. So now it's going to build a bunch of stuff that it downloaded, and things like NetEye faces, for example, or PSUtil, I think as well. They will have some native extensions that need to be built, and this is why we installed all this Visual Studio, build tool, C++ environment stuff earlier. No, I did not forget. Jim complains that I forgot docs. I did not forget docs, because docs are now Python 3 only build. This is why we are doing this only in the Python 3 virtual environment. But we get there in a second. Okay, so this is complete. OctoPrint is now installed in the Python 2 environment, so we are going to... Oh, there's actually an error here, because this should also have a deactivate in between. I need to add this at some point, but so we are going to deactivate the virtual environment again, and you saw that the venv2 that was still there is now gone again, and now we are going to activate the Python 3 virtual environment and are doing almost exactly the same thing. First of all, we update pip. Apparently it's already up to date, which is not that surprising considering that the Python 3 version that we installed, including pip, was from, was not even 2 months old. And then we are going to install again OctoPrint, edit in editable mode with the develop and plugin dependencies, and also with the docs dependencies. Because, as I said, those, if you want to build docs, they require Python 3 now, because I had to update some dependencies that are now only available in Python 3. But that will take care of this. And thankfully, it has a bunch of these packages now cached from the earlier installation in Python 2. It doesn't have to download everything again, but it's still going to take a bit. And hopefully everything works through, because it has found its build environment. But it should. I mean, this is the part where it is now needs to compile some stuff. And apparently that worked out, so that's good. Yeah, so what's everyone having for dinner tonight? In my case, it will just be some leftovers from yesterday, at some point, hopefully. Man, it's taking a sweet time here. But it's done now. Okay. So now we have Python 2.7 with an installed OctoPrint plus all its dependencies in the develop and plugins department. And we also have a Python 3.8 environment with OctoPrint and, well, basically everything that is somehow related to OctoPrint, develop plugins and docs. And what we are now going to do is, just in case that you plan to submit pull requests at some point or something like this, we are going to install pre-commit. Pre-commit is a little thing that was added to OctoPrint, or which is now not included is also the wrong word. OctoPrint started to use pre-commit around, I think 1.5. I'm not entirely sure. Because that pre-commit is installed some hooks so that whenever you try to commit something to OctoPrint, it will run stuff like some linting tools and some code checks and all that. And we want to make sure that everything is fine there, so we install it here. And this is all that you need to do. And we are also going to do something that looks very cryptic, which is we are going to tell Git to use an ignore refs file called .git blame ignore refs, which comes with OctoPrint. And what the heck does this do? So when we did this switch to using pre-commit and everything, and also enforced some new linting via the Python code formatter, and not linting, sorry, some specific format via the Python code formatter called black. That also meant that there were a bunch of white space changes and all that, because before that OctoPrint was indented with tabs. Now it's indented with for spaces like black enforces and all that. That would really wreak havoc when you want to do something like git blame. What is git blame? Git blame is when you want to see what line was last changed by what commit and want to get an idea of who might have more info about a change that you are looking at, or maybe you're trying to reconstruct what is exactly led to the code that is now at some line or at some line segment. And for that you use git blame. And if you now do something like you change every white space in, or you change all the white space in the whole code base from tabs to spaces, git blame becomes pretty useless, because all of a sudden it just tells you that, yeah, all of OctoPrint was last touched 2 months ago, and you can just forget about using git blame in a meaningful way. Thankfully, there's a way around that, and this is the git ignore res file option, because that just allows you to store a bunch of commits in a file, in this case .git -blame -ignore -refs, which contain which are commits that should be ignored for git annotate, for git blame. Annotate is another less confrontational word. And so we are going to tell Git now to use this, because otherwise whenever we try to do a git blame, it's just going to be not exactly helpful, and pretty much just going to reflect the changes of the past 3 months maybe, because before that everything was changed by the black formatting. And just to maybe give you an idea of what is in this file, it's really just a bunch of git commits. And so that I do not get confused why a certain commit is in this file, I also added some comments to that, but that is about this. Okay, so that was that. So this was all that was listed here, and now we're going to see if we can maybe get OctoPrint to be usable or integrated here in Visual Studio Code. As a word of warning, I have rarely so far used Visual Studio Code as an IDE for OctoPrint, but I thought it would make more sense to maybe show how to set this up than show how to set up PyCharm, because PyCharm is a proprietary tool. VS Code is free and open source and all that. And I know there's also the community edition of PyCharm, but frankly, I know that even less than VS Code. So it might happen that in there I'm like trying to get my bearings and finding functionality that is only available in the full pro version that I have. So I'm just going to go with VS Code, because this is like available to really everyone and on every platform and all that. So we want to open the Devil folder here. And now we see our OctoPrint thing here. And I was also hoping that it would maybe detect the 2 VMs that we installed with the... Did I restart this thing after I installed the Python? No, I didn't, right? We are going to quickly close this again. And are going to try if this works. Open with code. It does. So I find it a bit worrying that the Python thingy up down here is not showing up. But first of all, the important parts, maybe everything is here. We are still seeing PyC files. Why is there a version near PyC file? This is weird. Regardless. I'm going to quickly check. Yeah, the code size is maybe a bit small. I'm going to quickly change that. Where was it again? I think file, preferences, settings. Yeah, okay. So for the sake of this thing here, we're going to set this to 16 point, which I hope will make the, did it do that? Is this bigger than before? Can you read this? It's still a bit small, no? Can't have long asks, is there a way to use a local git ignore? I.e. git ignore is in VC, in version control, but I also have a git ignore local or something. I could have sworn there was. Honestly, if I'm not aware of something like that right now, but if you find something like this, let me know, please, because I would be really interested. Might be possible maybe to do this in some global git folder. I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, it would be really interesting to know. Okay. Python. It is installed. It is enabled. Now I need to figure out how to make it actually work with everything. I'm kind of confused right now. The language server, default interpreter path. Here we don't have one, but we don't want one either. Maybe we don't actually need to do anything here and just try to run a Python project, maybe. Let me... I'm really slightly confused right now because I'm pretty sure I only have this one installed on my local environment and there everything works just fine. Let me quickly check on the other screen. Just to make sure I'm not misremembering things here. Oh, wait, this is only the linter and debugger. We also need the Python for this one. We also need that one. Could this be? No, this is only syntax highlighting and linting again. So these are the two ones that I have installed. I have tried turning it off and on again. It won't load until I open a Python file. Oh, really? This is how it works. You are right. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So this is a bit, yeah, I probably opened a Python file sometime in the past on my other thing. Pyland is not installed. Do we want this? No, actually we want black, right? Is black available? No, Flake 8. Ha. Okay. So it has currently selected this version, this environment, but this is probably the global installed one, but we wanted to know about the other two. So we are going to add first that one. Right, it needs the Excel file for some reason. Python Excel. And now you can select it down here, but we also want this one. And now it's hopefully happy. Yeah, okay. So just to, this is not the terminal that I'm looking for. I want git bash. Thank you, that is the one that I wanted. And it actually has already activated our virtual environment, which we can see here. So we installed it, the virtual environment is activated, so now we want to run OctoPrint, right? And for that we can add a run configuration, and I also plan to commit this into OctoPrint source so that it is a bit easier. But for now you just create one, say you want to run a Python module, and you enter OctoPrint in there as the module name. And then it allows you to edit the run configuration here. And we are going to, call this start OctoPrint server. And we also need to give it some additional, or we don't necessarily need to, but we want to give it some additional arguments, which is we want to have it run the sub command that is serve. We want it to run with debug logging enabled. And I think that was it. And that was that, right. And now we should be able, where was the run? There was the run configuration, right, okay. And now we should be able to just say start OctoPrint server and fire it up here. And it will do all this for us. And it will hopefully also actually start up. Yeah, that looks okay. Then it asks us if we want to allow Python access. Yes, we want to allow Python to, I said allow, right? Yeah, I did. Well, so this is a running OctoPrint server. Just to quickly verify that it indeed is a running OctoPrint server, we are going to open it. All right, yeah, it just took a bit because everything is a bit slow in the VM apparently. Okay. We're going to just create a test account. Yeah, just save it. Will you? It will be a password that I will probably forget within seconds. I mean, you can decide yourself whether you want to enable an anonymous usage tracking or not. I'm going to disable it because this is just a throwaway instance anyhow. I'm going to enable the connectivity check, enable blacklist processing. Don't do anything special about the printer profile. Don't set up any commands because I really don't know what to put there right now. I know there are some tricks that you could put, some fancy stuff that you can put there to actually have it restart, but yeah. And webcam also not available right now. Finish and done. We have an OctoPrint running on here. And because it's a git checkout and I touched something, though I do not know what right now, but because the checkout is dirty, probably the .vs code file, it's showing me the whole thing here instead of just the stable version. And Jim asks, old version or restore on step 1? And Charlie already answers it. Yeah, backup restore is, the restore is not available in Windows. Backup is possible, restore is not. Exactly due to the aforementioned problem that you cannot replace files that are currently open on Windows, and this is why the restore just is bound to fail, because on a running OctoPrint you cannot do that. And so no restore, no automatic restore under Windows. You can still restore it manually, and there are instructions on the forums on how to do that, but yeah, not built in. Anyhow, so it's working. We could also know where was I? Right here. We could enable the virtual printer, which then pops up here, and then we can connect to a virtual printer, and ta-da! We could now also upload a G-code file and print something, but frankly, I have not prepared that step. Let me quickly check if I maybe can just copy one over or something to quickly demonstrate that this also works. The good old, does this work? Well, this was maybe the wrong. Apparently this does work. Awesome. Okay, so we can upload a file. And we can select it. And we can even take a look at it if we want so. And it is a very, very boring calibration cube, and we can print it, and it's now printing on the virtual printer entirely in debug mode, but right now it's heating up, which looks a bit funny, but this is due to the virtual printer. The heat up routine is not as, let's say, fancy as I would like it to be, but it does its job because all it needs to do is simulate something like a heat up, and it does this even though it looks like a stairwell. And if you look here now, you will also see there's a bunch of stuff happening. There was an intentional checksum mismatch that got triggered. It's calling various events. You're seeing a lot of debug logging here because we started it with --debug, and everything is just working. And in theory, what we could also now do, and I'm going to quickly demonstrate this because we started it as a in a debug configuration. So the debugger is actually attached, and we can set breakpoints and break on them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set a breakpoint on what? And something meaningful would be nice, right? I'm just going to set the one on the API for the printer commands. So when I now try to pause the printer, it will trigger. But first I need to find the right... Wait, that was on the job endpoint. I'm sorry. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. I just click here in the gutter. Then I click the wrong button. And then it's already done. Okay, crap. We are simply going to now that it triggered. I don't know if you saw it blinking. And if we now go into this thing here, we will see that there are a bunch of variables now that we can take a look at. So for example, we see that, let me make this a bit bigger maybe, that at this point here, actually let's step a bit further into this routine so that we have some more stuff to actually play with here. So we have a bunch of locals here. We have an active print job, so valid commands. This is what we defined here. We have command data and response set from the getJSON command from request thing. So we can also take a look here. We see this is start. We see that the data is also quite unspectacular. And we also have a response object, which is currently none. And yeah, that way we can now step through everything. We can also step into things. So if we now hit step into here, we will go into the place where where is it actually? Into OctoPrint access permissions pie in the permissions meta class get attribute thing, where it actually accesses the permission that we were trying to access here. So this is the lookup for, no wait, where was I? This is something about Visual Studio Code which always confuses me, that if you do not double click on a file, it will only temporarily open it and swap it out again with another one when you open the next one. I think you can also disable that somewhere, but I forgot how. So anyhow, we stepped into this line, right? So what is happening right now is we're looking at the lookup for this print thing here. So we do not actually want that because we're interested in going into the require thing. So we're just going to step out again and then step in again. And now we are in require, and so on and so on. So full-fledged debugger is in there, as is to be expected. And you can also, something that is very dear to my heart because I use it all the time and will probably go crazy if I cannot do it, right click on the breakpoint, say edit breakpoint, and then have it instead of, for example, just breaking always when it is hit, you can also say only break when a certain expression evaluates to true, so conditional breakpoint. You can say it is supposed to only log how often it was hit with a hit count, or you can also have it log a specific message. And yeah, so this is really nice. Don't know how to get out of that again, actually. Okay, I still need to practice that, but this is how in theory it works. And yeah, we can just now fire this off again. And if we now go back here, we now see it's heating up again. If we hit pause, it once again hits the breakpoint. Took some time to collect all the data, but it's there. And in theory, you could also add watch expressions and all that. So all the fancy stuff that you might be used from another IDE is possible to do here. And if you are not fully aware how to use a debugger, the most important stuff I already showed you. So it's just, you can step over commands, you can step into commands and slowly dive into deeper levels of the code as it is being executed. what you can also do is you can jump over a whole bunch of stuff. I think by, yeah, run to cursor, bam, now it's here again. And you can also inspect what is currently in memory. So you can inspect the current value of variables. Now I'm not entirely sure if it's this. Oh, right. Okay, so it's actually also doing this to get a little overlay of the current content of this thing as if I'm yeah. Though I have to say I still need to learn how to read this. But yeah, it works. So this is the main stuff that I usually do with a debugger. It doesn't go beyond this, to be honest. And oops. And now we are simply going to hit play again and remove this debugger, this breakpoint. And by the way, if you didn't know that and didn't see me doing it in the past, you can also do this if you are in your Firefox or in your Chrome, or I think even your Edge or your Safari. If you hit F12, you get this thing, which is the browser developer console. And in there, you also have a debugger. So for example, I could now go here and go into, I fear I have it, but yeah, this is not going to be fun. In theory, I'm not going to do this here because all of this is, you know what, we're actually going to quickly change that. So we are going to stop the server. No, here. I found it. I found the stop button. Isn't this awesome? We are going to add another folder to our workspace here, which is under Windows. OctoPrint saves its settings under the, was it app data or was it application data? I have to check. App data, roaming, OctoPrint, there it is. Okay, it saves its stuff under app data, and we're going to add that one. And this is now our config folder. So we see there's the uploads in here, the G-code file that we uploaded, and well, then install it. Oh, it can't install it for some reason. We are going to ignore that and go away. And what we also have here is the configuration file. And you now have my global API key. Oh my god, but this is not going to help you because this instance is going to get nuked after this stream. What I wanted to do now is I wanted to disable the web asset bundling. So I'm going to quickly take a look into the docs actually because I forgot the exact key. Configuration, config YAML, development settings, and I want to set web assets minify to false. Actually, bundle is still fine, but I don't want it to minify. So devel web assets minify false. Devel web assets minify false, and then we can restart it again. This should now hopefully start the server without minified web assets. What is it that I changed? I did something in the chat in the setup pie apparently. Well, that explains why it thinks it's discard. Let's start it again actually, because I want to see it have a clean version number. There we go. So as you see, OctoPrint has dynamic version numbers. It detects when you have modified its sources in some way, and it will include that in the version number. Why? Because for the longest time I had people telling me that there was a bug in a modified version of OctoPrint. They had me right at the very beginning. So around, we are talking 2013, 2014, around that time. People were building bugs into OctoPrint and then opening issues on my end. So now I see what they have running. Okay, reload, and hopefully we will now see something a bit more parsable for a human down here. This looks way nicer, doesn't it? So just to quickly demonstrate you that, or show you that we actually can do the same that we just did in Python also on the JavaScript side of things, because this is also really helpful, and because I sometimes have the feeling that that a lot of people don't really know how to use a debugger. I'm just going to also do this now. So in case that we click on the pause button, I'm just going to quickly look for some, no, from data process, blah, 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 progress data. This is all not what I'm looking. Print, we're close, pause. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. This is what it looks like. And then I'm going to connect, print my thing here. And then I'm going to hit pause. And it is not doing anything. I don't know why. This is not good. It should actually stop here. Oh, wait. Things are... Is it stopped? Oh, it is stopped. Is it stopped? I'm confused. I'm really confused right now. Let me try that again, maybe here. Ah, okay, apparently it was stopped. Now it worked like I expected it to. Okay, so because now we are paused on the breakpoint, it also shows you this thing in that way. And we can basically do the same thing that I just showed you in the Python debugger in VS Code, because we have the call stack here. We see which led to this point. So there was some event that was handled and dispatched, and somewhere was called, and then we ended up in this print method. We also are able to. Can I not? Do I have to? I thought I could maybe move this up a bit, but okay. Then we also see we here in the scope of the print method we have an this, and we have an arguments. We're not interested in that right now. In the printer state view model, so the thing that contains this method, the object instance, I should say. We also have some helper stuff and parameters and all that, and the self. And on the self, there's a bunch of things defined, and we can all look into that now and see how it looks like. And we could also, for example, edit to a watch expression up here. So just add the name of the argument or something, and then you will see when it changes and all that. So this is stuff that you can do with a debugger. And also here you can also say add condition or add lock. So doing this, you can say only stop here if, I don't know, the file name is named such and such or whatnot. It depends entirely on what you're debugging. For example, if you are trying to figure out, this is more relevant to the Python side of things actually than to the JavaScript side of things, but sometimes you find yourself in a position that, for example, you're trying to debug an event handler or something like that, and that will get a ton of events thrown at it, but you're only interested in stopping if the event equals a certain subset of events, for example. And this is where conditional breakpoints come in, because otherwise you will just spend most of your day clicking continue, and that can cause also all kind of Heisen bugs, which are bugs which are caused by timing weirdness and race conditions and all that. So famous Heisen bugs are cases where you whenever you look at them with a debugger, they vanish because suddenly the timing is different, and the more often you break on a breakpoint, that might happen in case of a very, very weird bug. So yeah, conditional breakpoints are your friend. So is sometimes actually print debugging, just having it lock, or actually putting print statements in some place. But yeah, I'm going to stop that now. So just in case we want to run it as Python 2.7 now. We want to set the workspace, the interpreter for this thing. Then we're going to... Oh, wait. Wait. No. I'm slightly confused right now because it's showing us... it's probably because it's not showing down here. It's not showing the one for the workspace, but for the for the entire workspace in that case. So that first of all, back to VN3, so things are not weird. I still really have to learn why sometimes it shows that it is in VN3 here and sometimes it doesn't. This is a bit confusing, I have to say, but okay. We actually want the other one again. Earlier today I could also get it to remember this. For some reason I can't right now, but I have to figure this out. I'm going to probably try to write up a similar guide on how to set up the IDE. In this case, how to set up VS Code like I did here for PyCharm. Just so that this is also tracked at some place. And I will then hopefully have ironed out these little kinks that I'm still encountering, where for some reason I cannot get it to actually switch the bloody... Wait. To actually switch the bloody VEnv over to the Python 2.7 version. No. Oh, maybe I clicked Python VN3 earlier. Nah. Okay, whatever. We can also do it manually. So just to demonstrate that, we are simply going into our OctoPrint folder, then we're going to source, as we saw earlier when we installed pip and OctoPrint itself and all that, VEnv scripts activate, and then we can just run python-m OctoPrint serve debug, and it will fire up the thing. And yeah, I promise I will figure out what is up with the run configuration here, but just to demonstrate, it will also start up under Python 2.7, which is also why we get another one of these here. Right. And if we now go back here and reload and close this because it's taking up way too much space here. If we scroll down now here, we see it's running under Python 2.7.18. So hooray! 2 VEnvs can quickly get switched back and forth. I'll just hit Control-C here. Can quickly get switched back and forth just by activating the one or the other. And probably you can also do it somehow over here reliably, but right now I seem to be incapable of that. Yeah, so that was that. Oh, there was also one thing I remember. I wanted to show you how this whole develop plugins stuff that we put next to the install arguments earlier, where this is defined and what it does and all that. So that stuff here, I wanted to quickly show you this because it's also in the setup.py file. So this is a bunch of additional. So if you want to just run OctoPrint, you're not interested in development dependencies, in plugin development dependencies, and you do not want to be able to install the documentation, build the documentation, or anything like that, you can just say pip install OctoPrint or pip install dot or pip install -e dot if you have an OctoPrint checkout, and it will be happy, and everything will work, and you can use it. However, if you want to do any of these development and whatnot stuff, then you need a bunch more, a bunch more of some other dependencies. And this is what this stuff is about. So this is called extra requires. And as you can see, we have develop here, we have plugins here, and we have docs here. Develop is stuff that is unit test related, but also pre-commit, that we saw earlier, which we installed to get tied to our commits that we do. Also, quite important, please do this pre-commit installs thing in the Python 3 VEnv, because that is what Git then will refer to. So if at some point you remove the Python 2 VEnv, then pre-commit will still work and you will not sit there and be very, very puzzled as to why you are now getting errors. Python is a profiler that is built into OctoPrint if you enable some debug stuff. The plugins requirements at the cookie cutter dependency, so that the subcommand in OctoPrint to create a new plugin works, which I think was OctoPrint dev plugin : new. And Docs installs things and a bunch of things, plugins and themes and whatnot in order to be able to build the docs. And actually, just so that we go through all of that as well once, so we already saw how to create the virtual env, we saw how to activate the virtual env and install a bunch of other stuff, how to start the server. But what we did not yet see is how to actually build the documentation, so maybe just also quickly display that. With the Python 3 environment enabled, which we currently have, we can just copy paste. We could just copy paste this, but and actually we need to get into the docs folder for that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And then it will just do this. Did I mention this in the docs or do I need to add that? No, I actually did. Okay. Yeah, it's now going to do a bunch of compilation and such. This was not good. Oh, right, I need to fix some of the... Yeah, this is just some includes. Oh, that was not good. That actually was not good. Now this is funny because this is stuff that runs daily a couple of times on the CI environment and never runs into any kind of problems like this. Sphinx config get add no such config value. Mermaid output format. Maybe some dependency got updated under myself again. So in theory, this is how you build the docs. In practice, I will now hopefully be able to find out why, for some reason, it is currently not working in this demonstration here. So, no such config value, mermaid output format. But I've never needed a mermaid output format config value so far. Why do I need one now? Control Shift F. Yeah. Okay. Where was the docs folder? There's the docs folder. So this is the mermaid contribution, the mermaid dependency, which I use for some diagrams, and I would say, and I would say that probably something there changed. And it now requires some kind of config setting, and I'm hopeful that I might be able to figure out what it needs. Ah, okay. Raw PNG or SVG? Oh dear, apparently stuff changed under me again. Did they have a recent release? I would say so, yeah. I'm pretty sure this one's still... No, but we are going to take a shortcut here quickly. And I'm going to figure out what is wrong there at another point in time. I think it was 050, right? Yeah. Because then we're simply going to install that one. Maybe I should add install as well, right? Could help. And now we're going to just try that again, and I hope this will make it work. And you're welcome. Keithy White says, thank you for everything that you do. That looks better, yeah. So this was the change in Mermaid that now requires a config value that before it didn't. And may I also just say that this is something that I really hate, and it happens a ton with dependencies. They all do not adhere to semantic versioning. So they changed something about how stuff is configured, and yeah, you see that it only increased the minor versions, only the part where things should stay, according to Semver, should stay backwards compatible, but here they didn't. And this now caused problems in a build. And this is not good, because this is going to cause problems in a lot of builds now. So I need to adjust this. But I cannot adjust it retroactively. Oh, this is going to be a ton of fun soon. Okay, so but I'm going to take care of that, not today. But still, we now have the documentation built, and just so that you can verify that you indeed have docs now built, we go into docs, into the build folder, and there is an index HTML, and if we now open that, ta-da, looks familiar, doesn't it? So the very same stuff that we just saw is now just built out again from the sources, and you could now quickly change something and build it again. Let's just do that just to demonstrate it. I'm just going to write hello Livestream as one word here. Save, run the build. At some point I will also understand why older versions of things didn't rebuild the whole documentation tree when you just changed one little file, but for some reason current versions do that. It makes everything a bit long. But yeah. Jim says we need someone to reformat all the config YAML examples to be 4-space indented instead of 2-space indented. Do we have it told? Did we tell it to indent? No, YAML should automate. So at least the stuff in. Oh right, but OctoPrint itself writes it with 4, right? With 4 spaces. I mean, I could also have it so that OctoPrint just in a future version writes out YAML in 2 spaces. No, it's 2 spaces here as well. Why do you want 4 spaces, Jim? Yeah, has been built. I don't need that anymore. So we can just go back to the, and there is hello Livestream. So this is how you build the documentation, and you can also change the documentation a bit. The only downside is actually, yes, in order to build the documentation, you need the whole OctoPrint source checkout. Why? Because stuff like this here comes directly from source files, from documentation in source files. So OctoPrint, or the documentation build needs this, needs all of this, needs all of the sources in order to be able to access that. Yeah. That was that. The good news is I'm now through everything that I immediately wanted to show here. OctoPrint writes config YAML to 4, but it shows me them here with 2. Oh wait, this is the list item. I'm confused. Let me quickly... Oh wait, I'm stupid. Yeah, sorry, I'm in the wrong YAML file. That's the reason. You're right. Yeah, you're right. You know what? Then I'm just going to... I don't have my GitHub account set up here, so I'm simply going to minimize this now and quickly switch you over to this here, which is my PyCharm IDE, and we're simply going to quickly take care of the whole business with the 4 spaces. So at least the config settings. So we're going to change that, and then we are going to search for this throughout the whole code base to find all other places where we write YAML with 4 spaces instead of, yeah, Gina, with 4 spaces, not with 2. Yeah, that doesn't end up in a file, but still, this does end up in a file. This does end up in a file. How do I know this? Because up here is an atomic write wrapper. This is the user config, group config, and this is just is a dump of the environment. Analysis output to not really necessary, but we are still going to do it for consistency reasons. Same for this one. This is a JSON dump. Do we also want what do we have configured for JSON files? Also two. Okay, and that moment when you actually change the whole. Let me out again. When you actually change the whole computer you're working on. Problem solved. At least once I commit this. All right, I'm on the wrong branch. Okay, we're going to quickly revert this because this was not really relevant anyhow. Yeah, I mean, either I figure it makes more sense to change it in the one place we can control instead of trying to change it in all the places all over the web where we can't control it, where people might have used two space indentation or something like that, or to find all the various examples all over the OctoPrint community, because now it's just going to be that way. And since OctoPrint writes this file out anyhow every time that you save it, it should hopefully not make that big of an impact. And just to make sure that it actually works how it should, different. Yep. So let's check that it actually does what it should. I don't even have a browser here, do I? Oh dear. Then I will just have to create an, oh, I have it here. I don't know, I'm just going to make it black or something, just so that I have one change that is going to get written back. And then Visual Studio Code again, this time on my actual workstation. No, that was wrong, that one. Config YAML, 2 spaces. There, problem solved. Yeah, so now it's consistent with all the other YAML files throughout OctoPrint's codebase, and hopefully the confusion has been lessened. Also, just to look at that data plugin blacklist. Yeah, that's also now down to, yeah, all that stuff is now being written properly. Oh, we have, this one doesn't have any version cache as well. Oops, nope. Announcements. Why did I call that .cache? Oh, right, because it's an actual RSS file and not something else. Okay, in that case, never mind. Right. Also, yay, you now know all my development keys, which are exclusively used to access my development instance, which no one will ever actually be able to access from outside. So if you want to copy and paste this somewhere, have fun now. Right, so we did that. It's almost 7 p.m. Originally I said I would also want to see if I can show the same stuff on Linux. As I said, I think the VM might be dying, or at least I need to figure out what is up there. I ordered a new hard disk drive that should hopefully arrive this week, and then I can fix this. I hope so. I hope that I can fix it and it's not something weird that I do not know how to fix, but yeah, I will try to do my best at least. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to do something else now or just call it a day after 1.5 hours for once. Because I also had a very early start today, but you know what? I'm just going to do this. Good luck with that, Sean. I also mentioned this in the last OctoPrint on Air. That I built this little nifty thing called the bundle viewer, and I think I showed this as well there, but I'm just going to show it again. So there's this thing now where you can upload OctoPrint system info bundles. I hope this is one that helps in any way. All right. Which is runs entirely in the client, and which is going to be very, very helpful in future debug endeavors, because these system bundle clients, the system bundles is something that you can export from here. So a fresh one. Oh, this needs to be fixed. It shouldn't be prompting you to reload in that case. But yeah, so you can download these, and for example, we can now just quickly add the fresh one that we just did, and you will be able to, you will be able to see all this stuff here. All the log files are included, OctoPrint log, software update log, also with some syntax highlighting and all that where it makes sense, and it will also detect if, for example, the serial log is disabled and show this and all that, and also if the thing is running. If OctoPrint is running on a Pi and the Pi is under voltage, then it will also show this here with a little warning, and it will also show the OctoPi version here if this is the case and all that. So much for that. Nothing new here, but I recently noticed that there is a little issue here, because if I copy paste parts of this log, or actually let's take that one because this makes it a bit more visible, hopefully. If I take these 6 lines, for example, and I want to paste them somewhere in a ticket or something, but also just here, I feel trolled right now because this didn't work when I tried to paste it in into a gist, and now it's working, because that back then it was one single line and I actually knew why, and I just wanted to fix it, and now it's not broken anymore and I'm confused. CP, it's 7 p.m. over here. CPN, sorry. Let me quickly see if I paste this in a gist, things are still. I want this over here. Thank you very much. Color me very, very much confused. Oh, wait, I have an idea what could be going on here. This was from a Windows machine, and I think what I was looking at when this problem happened was not a Windows machine. I need an OctoPrint log, preferably from a. There are so many tickets all over the bug tracker. There must be some place where I can actually find the log that I'm looking for. I think this one looks promising, so I'm going to use Charlie's fancy extension that he built so that I can quickly open that. So we are going to try this again, because this should be from a Linux. Please break, because I was hoping for you to be broken, because I wanted to explain what I want to try to. Yeah, there we have the problem. So this is now all one line, and this is not really helpful if you want to paste a log excerpt back into a ticket to explain something. So I was thinking to maybe just, if you are interested, because it's not technically hacking on OctoPrint, it's not technically working on OctoPrint, but it's rather working on a tool about OctoPrint, to maybe try my hand at fixing this now here. If you're interested, then I will give this a shot for let's say another half hour tops. Otherwise, I will probably call this a day, or just ask some questions or something, because yeah, tired and all that. So, are you interested in seeing how I work on the bundle viewer problem here a bit, or would you rather yeah, just don't do that because the JavaScript, not OctoPrint itself, the. Also, Spotify just put some Terminator music theme thingy in my ear. That's nice. Yeah, in case you were wondering why I have this in my ear here, the past live chats that I did without any kind of music were a bit weird for me. I usually always have music running when I work, so sitting here in silence and just talking to myself felt really off, and now it feels way better. Okay, and the chat apparently has absolutely no opinion on the matter. In which case, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Yeah. You're confused. You're not on con refactoring anymore. There we are. This should hopefully. Yeah, okay. Oh. So I'm going to need this file locally because I run into course restrictions here. Otherwise, I have a workaround for that for the bundle viewer, the live bundle viewer on the net, but not for the local one. So I'm quickly going to download this to my downloads, and just to check that it in fact still happens. I mean, it should, but. Yeah, broken. Okay. And Kunzi already spoiled it a bit. It is probably a line ending issue because Windows has /r/n line ending, so carriage line return and line feed and then carriage return, and I think that was the right one. /r is carriage is line feed and /n is carriage return. I think, yeah, and Linux only has line feeds, only /n, and I'm pretty sure that I'm currently just removing the line feeds from the all of the line feeds from the file from the log lines before I put them into the viewer. And I guess this is probably not into the viewer, but into the component which renders it, so into the renderer rather. And my hope is that this is the only problem, and it can be easily fixed by just not trimming the lines so that the stuff is still on there, but I'm not entirely sure. So let's check quickly. I think there was the log lines file that I have to take a look at, but let me quickly check. So this is my first React application. If you see anything horrible, then please excuse it as a beginner error, because I'm still learning as I'm building this, and this is actually not only a tool to help debug OctoPrint in the future and to help give support to people, but this is also my first foray into a React project to also evaluate it as a possible candidate for OctoPrint's next user interface. So yeah. Okay, so this is all the color line, matches query log line, blah 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 blah. Actually, no, this is somewhere up here. Lines, prop line. No, we do the splitting already, I think, in the bundle view. No. Where do I do the line splitting? This is the question now, and I have to find it again because it's been a while. Log view. Oops. Okay, now I actually see something. So we get the whole log, and then right here we trim any white space at the start or the end of the log, and then we split on /n. And this, of course, means that from the Linux stuff, all the /n will be removed. So what we probably want to do instead, I think we just want to map this. This might be a very fast solution, but we have to see line to Ah, now we have God of War soundtrack on in my ears. It's also nice. So now we just append /n back to. And Justin, yeah, Vue.js is actually something else that I wanted to take a look at, but I have to say I'm not entirely sure. I still find the time, and I've become quite fluent with React now, so I'll have to take a look. Angular is definitely something that I keep my hands off because I've heard way too many horrible things about it, and frankly, it doesn't have to be the same kind of traction anymore either. So what it will be either React or it will be Vue.js with a current strong a strong bias towards React, because after my initial, so I actually have to start at the beginning here, because in the beginning I thought it will be Vue.js because I really didn't like a lot of ideas about React. This whole everything is JavaScript and CSS and HTML and all that is just weirdly merged together in this JSX stuff and all that. So what I mean is, so for example, this is some way that you can define CSS. It's not the only way, this is the way that it is done here. I've also find stuff like style components now, and you can also just add normal CSS files anymore. But yeah, if you want to keep it in the component self-contained, this is one way that you can do it. And then you have this weird stuff here where you have HTML intermixed with other XML looking like stuff, which is components that you have defined elsewhere. And at first I thought this was horrible and would be terribly confusing. And then I actually started working with it. So I watched a bunch of tutorials and went through the bigger part of a whole online class on this, and started actually using it and realized, okay, after the initial feeling I had, it is actually quite nice to do it this way. So yeah, I still have to do at least a preliminary experiment with Vue, but right now I'm really, actually, to my utter surprise, am leaning towards React. But yeah, so the idea here was the split thing is taking out the /n, so we are putting it back in. So Windows files should stay /r/n, and Linux files will become /n again. The problem I see here is it could be that we now get this when we render this, that it will end up with double line endings, but we really want these at the end so that when we copy paste, that stuff will get will actually contain line endings. And yeah, Can't Live Long says, seems like React is more popular according to Google Trends. This is also actually this is also a bit of a factor that I'm looking at. So I'm not a person who says that I'm going to use whatever is the most popular, because no, this is not how we make a technology decision. But if I'm looking at two things that are quite similar to each other, with the same kind of possibilities and also which do not have big red flags either, then yeah, this becomes a bit of a factor. Not necessarily the deciding one, but yeah. Then again, I know, or at least I've had an event together last year with Evan Yo, so in some way I also feel obligated to at least give it a try. So I'm definitely going to give it a try. It's just right now, this is built in React, so we are going to continue to work on this in React. So I saved this, and it compiled. This is actually something that is really nice, I gotta say, how quickly this all can get updated. I'm not entirely sure though if it also updated here now. Let us check if we need to reload or not, because I didn't see. Normally I see it quickly refresh. This is not Control N, not Control T. And apparently this already fixed it, so this was fast. So this is only that one, right? Yeah. Oh, right. And we should also check a Windows thing now, to make sure that we don't get double line endings or something like this, right? So I'm simply going to open this one, because we know that this contained, and this still looks totally fine. Also, if I copy and paste it, I hope. See, and this now is a problem because we don't want that. We only want one line ending, not two. This is horrible. So we need to do this differently, actually. So we're going to say we're not going to take a line, just a line, but we're actually going to R-trim it as well. Well, do I have R-trim in JSON in JavaScript? Or was it R-strip? I always confuse these. No, wait. Don't laugh, please. Oh, it was trim end. Okay, because I just want to, if there is any white space at the end, I want to remove it, but not at the start because stuff might be indented, right? So only at the end. Because that, in that case, I mean, if there's white space at the end, we don't really need it. And this fixes that. And just to be on the safe side, this also still works. Franzi says remove R. We could also do that, right? Maybe actually, yeah, let's leave the white space at the end unless I don't want to remove. Do I want to remove R's in between? I mean, technically yes, but the easy way would be just to say replace. Now we will stay at that because I mean the actual thing that I want to do here is check if line ends on an R, if so remove that and otherwise use the whole line. But it feels like this is a bit too much, maybe. And yeah, Justin says fast API is also really nice because of its native async IO. This is also this is actually something that I also wanted to look at, and I've already bookmarked or earmarked in a talk for myself. There's on Saturday there's the Pi Cascades event, which sadly is at US or rather at North American hours. So the talk that I want to look at or watch about fast API and stuff like this will happen around midnight my time. But yeah, I will probably just still watch it live. I don't know if they put up the recordings later, and also in case I want to ask something or something, it would be nice to still be up. So yeah, but okay, so this now works again. No, we don't want. Thank you. So we can just add typos and then simply commit this thing. I could also do this via VS Code, but frankly I still have not gotten used to the VS Code Git integration, so I'm just going to do this way. Fix line endings, vanishing for, yeah, allows easier or allows copy paste without spaghetti as a result. Go. And Justin says I can look at his boilerplate repo if I'd like. I mean, shoot the link my way. I would certainly like to learn about that stuff. It's just probably some way of. Charlie says I don't think I've ever used Git on the command line. I actually use it a ton on the command line, I gotta say. I probably use it, I wouldn't say that I use it half of the time but on the command line, but I use it really a lot because, I don't know, it just feels more in control. Like I for example, I still need to get to grips with git lengths for VS Code. Maybe it's better there, but the regular standard, where was it again? There. The regular standard commit dialog, I just find this utterly confusing. The one here in... oh, actually I need to commit that. The one here in PyCharm is quite nice, I gotta say, because you can also select stuff a bit more intuitively, I have to admit. But still, if I really want to get to the bottom of what gets in the commit and what not, I usually prefer the command line. What is this actually? Is this improve structure format of the code? I mean, it improves the output format. That was the 4 spaces versus 2 spaces thing. Yeah, maybe. Right? We'll just declare that as an improved structure thing. Output JSON YAML with 2 space indentation. Yeah, the diff tool is also really nice, I gotta say, especially the 3-way merge and all that. I did a horrible merge of Doom last week when I got back into hacking on the com refactoring branch again, finally, after almost a year of hiatus. And, or actually over a year, I think. And I had to do, so last year we switched over, we did all this black formatting and all that stuff on OctoPrint, right? And we also switched to Python 3. All of that was not yet in the com refactoring branch, so I had to merge the current development branch in this thing and at the same time take care of all the situation with Python 2 versus Python 3 and all the whitespace changes and the formatting changes. It was an absolute nightmare. It took me the better part of maybe a bit more than half a day. And I had to redo it a bunch of times because I did mistakes that I could not correct easily again. So I'm just glad this is over, and without this 3-way merge tool built into the PyCharm thing, I would probably have gotten ready to kill. Then again, yeah, some other diff tool would probably also have done the job, but this is what I had. I just wanted to commit, right? And this is also where it is now running the pre-commit stuff that I mentioned. So if I did something where either flag 8 or black are not happy now, it will let me know, but thankfully, and prevent me from committing actually. But it was happy now, so we can also push this. Control-Shift-K, if you see, yeah, it actually outputs this there. Is this only? Okay, this should not have gotten in there, but on the other hand, fuck it. Oops. Yeah. Beep. It's getting late. I'm starting to curse again. This is something I really need to take care of a bit more, better when I stream. Oh, also, I don't know if you're into stuff like this, but I might be doing some Twitch game streaming soon. I actually did a long game stream on Saturday with my best friend, where I played Hanse, which is an old German game from the 90s that we played, yeah, without end back then when, and we both haven't touched it in 26 years or something, and now we played it again last Saturday against each other, and that was quite a lot of fun. But that also made me realize it's actually a ton of fun to just play a game and chat a bit in between. So I might try this, because I really feel this is itch to give Settlers 1 a try again. It's been ages as well, almost as long as, almost 26 or 25 years as well. So yeah, if you're into this kind of stuff, then maybe follow me on Twitter, because I will probably put it there whenever I actually find the time and patience and whatever to do, but definitely not tomorrow, but maybe this week somewhere. Yeah, push. And the bundle viewer update should also hopefully have built by now, so we can try again what happens when we load this. We can just reload this actually. When we load this log. So this should hopefully now work again. It doesn't. Why doesn't it work? We just pushed it, right? Oh, maybe the build didn't run through yet for some reason or another. So let's check that. Fixed line endings vanishing. It actually did build. some caching problem. Okay, so this is solved now in the deployed version as well. So if you are interested, you can take a look there and use it. So yeah, also just because I mentioned it earlier, this is quite nifty, something that that Charlie built. I just want to quickly look at a ticket that I can use to demonstrate this. Right. So you see this right here, and these are uploaded log files, and usually if you download, if you clicked on that now, it would offer to download it, and at some point you have a whole download folder full of OctoPrint logs that are all just a nightmare to sift through. Instead, you now just install the Open in Bundle Viewer extension by Charlie and right click and then have this entry here, and bam! Isn't it awesome? So this is really, really nice. And this also works with system info bundles, of course. So not only with log files directly dumped into that, but also with I opened it, closed it, right? But also in there. So maybe the good old RRRSSD, my test issue. So you can also do that here, and this also works. So this is really nice. So yeah, huge thanks for that. This is really awesome. And I've used it a ton actually the past week already. So that has helped a lot. I'm still thinking that maybe I should, if it's only one log, I maybe should try to adjust the height of this to be a bit longer, more, right? But I'm not entirely sure yet what a good value here would be. I mean, make it the full screen would be one option, or make it even bigger than that. I don't know yet. Yeah, the search also works, by the way. I think I made it. Yeah, I made it case insensitive. And another fun thing maybe would be to put a regex here up here as well to allow this with some button thing or something. But yeah, for now I'm quite happy how this worked out, because I was a bit afraid I would not be able to get this to work, because the way that this works is log files can be really, really, really big. So I've tested this with files that had like 50k lines and up, and it still performs nice because it doesn't actually render all the log lines. It only renders those that are visible right now. But this means that something like Control F does no longer work, at least not for the whole log file, because it's simply not there. It's not on the page. And yeah, so yet now I've lost my thread of thought, because I think Charlie just tried to paste the URL, it didn't go through, and there's also no mention of the OctoPrint, the YouTube censor bot thingy that filters out stuff like that, spam looking stuff. It's no spam in that case, of course, but yeah, I'm simply going to show you. I think it was on the community forum, right, where you can find it in case you want to use it. If you just look for, you know what, I should probably just include a link to it in the bundle viewer as well. Right, so if you look for bundle viewer, you will find that one. This is the extension. Do I have space here for? No, I have to check how I can get it in there, but yeah, I will try to add a link to this here somewhere in the footer or somewhere, so that it can be. But yeah, so go to the community.octoprint.org and search for bundle viewer, and then it will be that one. This one was a test that you will not see, and this one should show up, I hope. And I will also see that I actually link it on the bundle viewer bundleviewer.octoprint.org site, because that makes absolute sense to have there. Yeah, so that was that. We are now at 7:24. Which means I think I will call this a day now. Because if I get even more hungry, you will probably hear it on the mic, and that would be a bit embarrassing. I would try to avoid this, actually, I gotta say. Okay, and Francis says +1 for entire screen. Yeah, I'll try to figure out how best to do that. Right now it's a bit weird because the individual parts there are individual views, and the only thing right now that I detect is if there's only one log, then open it so that it is not rolled up like here now. But yeah, no, not hangry this time, Daniel. I was hangry earlier though. That was not funny. So I ate some junk food to get rid of this problem, but yeah, now I need something proper. Okay, can I? Does this work? Awesome. So yeah, I hope this was what people asking for a demonstration of how to set up a development environment under Windows 10 was what people were looking for. If there is real interest in seeing how I've set up my PyCharm specifically, I can also do that at some other point. I will also try to figure out how to get everything working with VS Code so that it is a bit less weird as it was right now when I couldn't figure out how to switch the VN anymore. But yeah, so that is the general idea here. And also I will do these when I have something to show, when I have some kind of issue that makes sense to solve on screen, and I will not make any promises anymore when exactly I will do these, but I will try to do that still as soon as I can, and as soon as it makes sense, and as soon as it doesn't collide with my regular schedule, because I have surprisingly many evening appointments these days because of calls with people in the US and all that, which makes it a bit problematic sometimes to find the time to actually stream at a good day. And frankly, I do not want to do these on the weekend because, I mean, it is fun, but it's still work. So if I stream on the weekend, it would rather be something like gaming. Yeah. I also hope the setup worked well for you all. I certainly find it interesting to have a green screen behind me and not to have to worry about lighting as much as I used to. It's still not optimal because I only have one over there, and I hope to. I also ordered one to go there so that the green screen right now you cannot see it right now, but it's way more brighter up here than down here, and this is giving the chroma keying a bit of a trouble. But I hope to fix this soon as well. And then also maybe get rid a bit of this grizzling up here. I don't know, you can probably see it a bit, right? How it shimmers. Because this is where it's undecided what to do. Actually, I could just quickly maybe switch off the chroma key so that you can see how it actually looks right now. If I find it again. Crap. Where did I define that thing again? I find OBS still a bit weird. So, this is how it actually looks behind me right now. Green. But a different shade of green. Yeah, I'm still getting to grips with OBS, but overall I actually have to say I'm quite happy with it. What I really, really like about OBS versus XSplit is that I have an audio mixer open and visible at all times, because this was driving me up the walls. I had so many problems with way too hot mics with XSplit, and now I just see when I'm over the bar, and I also have an audio limiter in place now, so in case I actually get too loud, if I now scream into this thing, it will not ruin your hearing for the rest of the day. I'm not going to demonstrate it because I'm not that kind of person, but I could, and it would not be a problem. I tested this, and this is really nice. I just have to figure out some more stuff. For example, I find it a bit annoying that I have to enable the green screen on some filter settings somewhere and don't have a button where I can just say chroma key on, chroma key off. But this thing has a scripting API and a Python API to boot. So yeah, I already wrote my first thing. Sadly, it did not work. This was the first stream where I was trying to test it out because, yeah, this live chat that I have here, this is embedded in an HTML container, and I just have to drag in the right URL for each new live stream, and I built a little script that would do that for me, but for some reason it didn't work earlier today. So I don't know, maybe there was some delay in the system. I just copy pasted it manually then again like a caveman. I hope at some point I will figure out what went wrong there, because the script did actually work. I tested it out with various live streams from various channels, but for some reason it just didn't work with OctoPrint's live stream. Maybe it was just not running long enough yet and there was some caching in place. I don't know. I will figure it out at some point. And I will also see if I cannot figure out a way to put a button somewhere that allows me to simply enable and disable the green screen, because I do not always want to have it like this. On the other hand, it works. I mean, if these problems here in the head area, if they get handled with a bit better lighting, that would be nice, and then there is no problem at all. Also, I can make myself a shadow here. No? There. Haha. Right. Okay. Well, without further ado then, I'm going to go for my dinner, late enough as it is. And I wish all of you a good rest of the day or evening or morning or whatever time it might be where you are right now. And yeah, I really want to thank you for the great turnout today, and I hope it was interesting and you learned some stuff. And if you have any ideas of what else you might want to see that I show in these streams when I'm not busy fixing bugs or something like that, then feel free also to give me a shout out on Discord. Just comment here below and I will see what I can do. I mean, it took me a while to get around to do this, because I gotta say I actually bought the Nook so that I would be able to host VMs to do stuff like that. But that was already some months ago as well. Yeah, so just throw ideas my way. I see what I can do about them. I will also see that I do these whenever I find the time to do these, and otherwise, yeah, maybe follow me on Twitter at Fusel if you are interested in seeing me try to play a game again, which I haven't played in years. Yeah, in decades actually. Okay, and then yeah, all that's left to say is, as always these days, stay healthy, wear a mask, wash your hands and all that, and of course also happy printing. Bye.